And in this lesson, we are going to look at common modifiers. We will look at a few modifiers. Hopefully this lesson will be a bit quicker. Now I'm inside Blender. So first of all, what are modifiers? Modifiers are small tools on their own to speed up different operations in Blender. And why are they important? They're important because they are non-destructive. I will show you one or two modifiers as an example, but if we use any other modifiers during creating actual project, we will learn those too. First of all, let's come to this place, this wrench or whatever icon this is. This is modifiers panel, and in order to add a modifier to an object, you need to select this object. Let's actually delete these two objects, we don't need them. And you can add modifier, and we have categories here. And the category which I'm going to talk about is this generate. The most important modifier, and which is used in almost every project, is this mirror modifier. So let's go ahead and add mirror modifier, and immediately you see nothing, right? There is nothing happened here. First of all, what this does is it simply mirrors the parts of the object to another side, providing symmetry while modeling something. And it's important, I said while modeling, so mirror is usually seen while we're modeling something. And mirror works based on pivot point of the object. It symmetrizes the model relative to the pivot point of this object, and in Blender pivot point is called origin point or just origin, and which is indicated with this very little orange dot. You don't see it because now cursor tool is active. Let's actually use cursor tool and put the cursor here. This is called 3D cursor or just a cursor. Let's go back and activate the select box tool, and now you can see this small orange dot. Hopefully this is this object's pivot point or origin point, and if I rotate this object in object mode, it rotates around that pivot point, right click or escape to undo. And mirror mirrors or symmetrizes this object based on its pivot point. And because this pivot point is in the center, and because this object is already symmetrical around its pivot point, you don't see any effect when you apply this mirror modifier. And as you can see, Blender is trying to mirror this object along x-axis, which means whatever is here on this along x-axis will be mirrored or will be symmetrized to the other side along this x-axis. And it doesn't show anything if I choose Y or Z because it is perfectly symmetrized along all axes. So let's keep X, and actually let's delete this object and let's go to edit mode. Now we are going to learn an important concept. Let's go out of edit mode by pressing tab again. In object mode. In object mode, if you move the object, the origin point will move with it. Control Z. But in edit mode, if you select everything with an A by pressing A, and if you move this object, the origin point stays in one place. So press X and move this object along x-axis and go out of edit mode. Now, if I rotate the object, as you can see, the pivot point is outside the object. Now, we can mirror this part along x-axis to the opposite side along x-axis. So let's try that, generate, mirror, and now you can see it's mirrored. This is the object and this is the mirrored object. Hopefully you have learned how mirroring works, and by pressing what can we look from the top? Do you remember what number we should press to look from the top of these objects? It's 7. Remember, if I move this object in object mode, the origin point will move along with these objects, but in edit mode, if I select everything and GY, I can move and leave the origin point there. Go out of edit mode in object mode, and let's activate Y-axis. This might seem a bit confusing at first, but trust me, you will learn it very quickly. And let's delete this object. Shift A, create a new cube. Remember, I'm in object mode. Don't forget to go to object mode. Create a new cube. For some reason, new cube is not in the center of the world, right? How do we bring it to the center of the world? And why did it start to appear here? Because by default in object mode, if you create a new object, that object will be located where the 3D cursor is located. Come here, press Shift C to bring the 3D cursor to the center of the world. In object mode, remember, right click and there is set origin option here. And you can set the origin point to 3D cursor, just like that. Now, if you see, let's get this 3D cursor out of way, and you can see this origin dot, which is the origin point of the object, and it's in the center of the world, where the cursor was before. Mirror modifier again, and it's here now. Go to edit mode, press 1, and move this GX to here. And if you look carefully, it can easily cross itself, right? It doesn't touch itself, it doesn't stop, but there is a way to do that. You can turn on clipping and GX. Now it kind of snaps to each other, right? Two parts of the object kind of snaps to each other, but you don't want a face between this joint sometimes, like X-ray view, right? You can press Shift what? Shift Z, if you remember. And there is a face between these two parts of this model. There is a face here. If you don't trust me, I can show it to you. There is a face here. I can select one face here. And let's delete this face. And now there is not face, and this one is usually better. So whatever it is, you can uncheck this clipping, go to edit mode, select everything, GX, and you can move it away. So this is one thing that I want to show. Let me show you the last thing. Shift A, create a, let's say this time we create a cylinder. GX, move the cylinder, but I will keep the origin point inside of the cylinder, but I will create another object, which is a cube this time. And I can use other object's origin point as the mirror. Shift. Do you remember how to bring the cursor to the center of the world? Well, it's Shift C. And it does not only bring the 3D cursor to the center of the world, it also frames everything in the scene, so it's visible, everything is visible. Let's go to selection tool. You can use other objects' origin point for the origin point or for the pivot point of mirror. Let me show you what I mean. Select this cylinder, add mirror modifier, and mirror object, it's rather a pivot object or something. Let's select this object, and immediately you see this cylinder is mirrored based on this object's origin point, which is in the center of the world. And now, based on this mirror modifier, with this mirror modifier, I will talk about a few other things about modifiers in general. First of all, you can use a few modifiers at the same time, not only one modifier. Let me add another modifier to this stack, which is, let's say, bevel modifier. And as soon as I added bevel modifier, you see beveling around these edges. Also, you can move these modifiers just like that to change the order in the stack. Sometimes it affects the overall view, sometimes it doesn't. You can delete the modifiers without deleting anything here by pressing this X. And as you can see, I deleted the effect, or you can delete this mirror modifier too by deleting. Control C to bring this mirror modifier back. And the last thing, which is essential, you can apply modifiers. By default, modifiers are non-destructive, which means you can just delete the modifier and keep the result as before. Let me add another modifier, which is bevel again. As I showed in edit mode tools, beveling is also a tool here. I went into edit mode of this, And there is bevel tool here, as I showed. It was, do you remember what shortcut we used for beveling? So it was Control B. We can bevel, go out of edit mode, we can bevel stuff, but this is destructive. If you bevel using bevel modifier, it is non-destructive, which means you can change the effect wherever you want, just like that. I'm changing bevel modifier. And if I don't need it, I can delete it. If I want to change it, I can change it all the time. If I don't delete this modifier, I can delete this modifier and I can delete this one too. But what if I want to retain, keep this effect forever and I don't want to change it in the future? Well, if that's the case, you can apply the modifier. Let's click on this and apply. Applying will keep the effect forever. It will make the effect permanent. It does not give you any other chance to change it later. So if you think you have done everything and you're satisfied with the result, only if you want to export your model to any other software, only then you can apply. In other situations, there is usually no need to apply modifiers. You can just keep the modifier forever, because you might not, you don't know, maybe you will change it in the future. So applying will keep the effect forever. I got rid of the modifier, but I kept the effect. Now it's permanent. We learned a few things about modifiers. Let me show you another modifier, which is array. It's a really good modifier. It creates an array of objects. Array means a number of objects, and you have offset between these objects. You can move the object along any axis, as you can see here. I'm changing it around x, along x-axis. I'm moving it. I can duplicate, I can multiply the count. I can multiply the objects, and I can also move them along other axes, just like that. And I'm using relative offset, which means the distance between these two objects are relative to their sizes. If I make the object bigger, the distance will also be bigger. You can use constant offset, which is just constant number. For example, it's 2.7 meters, and it doesn't take into consideration the size of the object. The distance between these two objects or two duplicates are not related or relative to the size of the object. Sometimes this is useful, sometimes relative offset is useful, sometimes you can use object offsets. Let me show you something else. SY, SZ, and let's bring this a bit closer to each other. And if you noticed, I hold down Shift while I'm changing these numbers. Left click and drag to change these numbers. If I hold down Shift, the changing is more incremental and more precise. If I don't hold down Shift, it's not very precise. I can hold down Shift for more precise movements. And I can just make them go like that, and this way I can create some sort of steps, as you can see here. SX, oh no, SY, I'm in edit mode, I'm editing the original object, and these duplicates will automatically be copied. So yeah, this is array modifier. You can apply it if you want, or you can just delete it to delete this effect. So this is a little introduction to modifiers. If you want to learn more about modifiers, there are other courses I hope you can find on YouTube. But if you want to learn everything about these modifiers, all modifiers and all properties of modifiers, everything you can change in modifiers and some other options in modifiers, you can go ahead and get my paid course on Udemy. It's especially if you follow the link below this video, you have a coupon for a good discount. So thank you and see you in the next video.